Hi world, I'm Paul and welcome to my channel. Well, it's been a busy week, a lot's happened and there's a lot to catch up on. So let's get into our second episode of What's Up, is where we take a look at the week that was and the week that's coming up. So first up, let's have a look at some reviews I saw over the week. The first review that caught my eye was a review by Devon from MarkII YouTube channel, and his review was on the AnyCubic i3 Mega. It was a very good review. If you want to have a look at that, check it out for yourself. I'll put a link in the description below. But Devon does pretty good reviews, and he's using a lot of printers, so it's good to get a perspective from someone who has used a lot of printers and uses the printer in day-to-day for his printing. So definitely check out Devon's review at MarkII. Another printer that caught my eye was the Geeetech E180. The Geeetech E180 seems to be doing the rounds this week. I saw it on Neary's channel, I saw it on the Hot End, John's channel, and I saw it on Jimmy Shaw's channel. I'll put a link to each of those reviews in the comments section below. But the Geeetech E180 was a printer which is targeted at beginners and for people just starting in the 3D printing world. But from my experience with the printer I've got, which is the Cocoon Create, I'm not sure this is a printer you'd want to start with. It may actually turn you off 3D printing a little. So definitely check out the Geeetech E180 reviews from Neary's, John and Jimmy Shaw, and see if you agree with me, but I think it's not the ideal printer for a starter or a beginner. The next printer that caught my eye was the Cetus 3D MarkII. It's a linear rail printer, and I'm learning the different types of systems for moving the head left, right, X, Y and Z. But the linear rails seem to be the most sought after, most stable, most planted way of moving that print head along the X-axis and also the Z-axis and the bed on the Y-axis. It's interesting that this printer, it's a small printer, that it actually has the linear rails on it. So I'd expect that it would give very reliable print results. There's a few reviews that you can have a look at that printer, and I'll put those channels in the link in the description below. But it's one worth looking at, I think, the Cetus 3D MarkII. Definitely check it out. Oh, there is one thing I didn't like about that printer though, was the print bed. The print bed has 4 countersunk screw holes in the middle of the bed. So if you're going to print anything on the bed, apparently it's a very good bed for adhesion, but you're going to be left with 4 bumps in the bottom of your model where those countersunk holes are. So you either have the option of using a raft or putting sticking another print surface over the top of it. But that's not ideal. I wish they would have done something a bit different with that print bed. Another review that caught my eye was Joe's AnyCubic Photon DLP 3D printer review. It's an unboxing and testing and a print review. And if you don't know Joe, Joe is a 3D Maker noob and does really good content and really good reviews. And it was quite interesting to see the results he was getting off the Photon DLP 3D printer. So it's not using filament, it's using resin and a light source to harden the resin into the shape that you're looking for, or into your model shape. After seeing what's involved with using resin printers, I'm not sure if it's for me. There seems to be a lot of cleanup and a lot of mess associated with the printer. I think I just like the filament way of printing better than resin. The print surface is a little bit smoother, but I don't think it's a whole lot better or enough to make it worth switching from printing with filament to switching to printing with resin. But check it out and have a look for yourself. It's quite interesting. I think it's probably going to be the future of printing. Resin printers have been around for a long time, but I think it's a good review and definitely worth having a look at. I also became aware of Ray's 3D printers this week with CES. I got to see a few new companies that I hadn't heard of before, and I really like their printers. The components they're using are top-notch. I like that it's got an enclosure. I'm a fan of enclosures, and it just seems to be really well built and really well thought about and thought out. I like the LCD display on the outside of the case. Apparently the hot end and the extruders are top-notch, the best you can buy. Even the lead screws they have in them are apparently the best you can buy. So that would be one to look at down the track, I think. Once I've been printing a lot more and can afford to upgrade my printer, that would be one. I don't know if I'd go to that step next, though. I think I'd pick something a bit cheaper than something like that. But that would be possibly a dream printer. Another company that caught my eye was Mark Forged Printers. Now, this is a printing company that's way out of my league as to be able to afford one of their printers, but they do 3D printers and 3D printing systems for companies like Harley-Davidson and big manufacturers who need to do carbon fibre and metal 3D printing prototypes. It was just fascinating to see to what level you can take your 3D prints, especially when you get to carbon fibre and metal 3D printing. Quite fascinating. So definitely check out Mark Forged Printers' website. It's not something that's you're probably going to be considering for yourself, but you never know. There may be a company that could be watching this that may be looking for a high-end, ultra high-end 3D printer and 3D printing company. Now let's take a look at some models I printed this week. I got contacted by a subscriber named Johnny, who had a little Christmas tree that he was packing away and broke the little foot off the bottom of it. And Johnny contacted me to ask how he would go about modelling that foot and printing it. So I took it on as a little personal project to help Johnny out and came up with this little part for him. Johnny sent me some photos and measurements and got to just making a model for him so he can print it out for himself. We had a little bit of issue with measurement and fitment on the first go, but we got it on the second go, which was really good. And Johnny was able to print a piece out for himself and stick it onto his tree, so that was really good. Johnny also had a little issue with his Cocoon Create printer where it started printing in the middle of the air. I think it was about 25 millimeters off the bed. And it turns out the coupling from the stepper motor to the lead screw on the Z-axis had come loose and come away. So it might be worth checking. He's been on to WinPlus, the suppliers of the Cocoon Create printer, and they've been very good and following up and sending him replacement parts and things like that. So that's good to hear. But it might be worth just checking your own printer and making sure everything's done up tight and nice and securely screwed in, because a simple thing like that could cause major hassles down the track. The other thing I modelled and started to print was a new version of my SD card holder, and it's just a more simple and more clean version than the previous version, just something a bit more stylised. And I did notice that when I started printing that, I had great bed adhesion, and I'll tell you why shortly. And the other thing I noticed was that I had a layer shift, and I'll show you a close-up of this. And I'm not sure why that actually happened, but I suspect it's because of this little ledge that's in the lid, and I think the print or nozzle head might have caught on that little ledge and just held it up for a couple of steps, which then put it out of alignment. So then it printed the rest of the piece out of alignment, which gave me a layer shift. Now I thought it might have been just a once-off incident, and I've since remodeled that piece to try and alleviate that. And then I saw I was printing I designed and printed a camera stand for my Fuji camera for doing close-ups just on top of my desk of the parts I'm printing. And I noticed that also, I had bad adhesion for a start. Don't know if you can see that, but it's curled up. I'll do a close-up so you can have a look. And I couldn't figure out what had happened because I've been having, since I switched to using isopropyl alcohol and just using that to prepare my bed, I haven't had any major lifting. Maybe a little corner's popped up or something, but nothing major. And then I remembered that when I was levelling the bed was out of fair way, and I had to re-level it, and I forgot to do my isopropyl alcohol spray before I started printing. So I got distracted by the bed being out and then forgot to spray. So that's what I reckon's happened there. I just didn't spray. So I then printed another one to replace it and noticed a layer shift. And when I went back to look at the previous one, I noticed it also had a layer shift in the same spot. And I was quite perplexed as to why I was getting layer shifts there, because there's nothing really for it to catch on. I thought maybe it could on the internal or something like that. So I went back and had a look at I took the G code back into Cura to see if the layer shift was actually in the G code, and that all looked fine, all looked clean. So I then had a look at my settings, in particular the Z hop setting for the hot end for the nozzle, and it was set to 0.075. Now I had been printing at 0.06 layer height. I'm now printing at 0.1 just to try and speed up my prints a bit, and I'm getting quite excellent results at 0.1, so I'm very happy with that. I think what's happened is when I went to 0.1, I should have raised my Z hop height up higher because it was still at 0.075. So I'm not sure if that's the way it works, but I tried setting my Z hop to 0.15, which is a little higher than 0.1 layer height. And the prints I've done since doing that have been fine. I've had no layer shifting. So far I'm saying that I've fixed the problem of the layer shifting, and that is just by raising the Z hop up. So when it moves to another part of the model, the nozzle picks up and then comes down again. It was set at 0.075, so it wasn't picking up very much in it. I reckon it may have been catching on edges of the model. Now the other thing I just mentioned was my camera stand. So I'm printing parts for that, and that's coming up very well. I'm very happy with that. That was the piece that bolts to the camera. These are the uprights for that piece. I've printed the side screws to go into the side of the piece that holds the camera. So that'll screw into here, like so. And then these pieces will attach onto here. And I've also printed the screw that will attach the camera to the bottom of this plate. And you may notice that I'm screwing this in a reverse direction. And the reason I'm doing that is because I made a mistake. And that is, when I modelled these pieces, I created one piece and then mirrored it for the other side. And when I mirrored it, I reversed a thread in this side. So I tried to screw in the correct thread screw. It was fine in this side, but into this side it just wouldn't go in. I couldn't work out what was going on. And then I realised that was a problem. I'd mirrored the thread. So I just mirrored this screw to give me a mirror thread, and now I'm able to screw it into this side. But it's pretty annoying because it used to tightening in this direction, but now I've got to tighten in this direction. So I'm going to have one which is tightening in the correct direction and one which is tightening incorrectly. So I think I'll reprint this part and reprint the screw. But I used a metric thread on this screw, and it takes a lot of turn. It's a bit too fine, I think, for this sort of thing. And the other thing is, so I've since redesigned this with a coarser thread, so I think I'll reprint all these parts again, and the screw with the coarser thread for that. And I also printed this screw with a hollow centre and 2 layers on the wall. So it's 0.1 millimetre layer height, 0.4 nozzle, 2 layers for the wall with about a 15% infill. And as you can see, it's just not strong enough. I just tightened it, and it just snapped off. So I've since redesigned these, and I will print the coarser thread, and I'll print them solid. I know it's not going to be as strong as steel, and it never will be, but I think it's going to be fine for what I'm doing here. And the other piece I did was I modelled a 1/4 inch 20 UNC thread, which is the thread that fits into the bottom of cameras for camera mounts, and just printed this little piece to go in here. So this one is also hollow, but I'm going to reprint this as solid, and I'm going to watch this very carefully because I'm a bit wary about using this to mount my camera to the top plate, because if it breaks or lets go, my camera's going to fall onto the desk, which I don't want. So I'll be just watching that and seeing how it goes, and I may end up just buying a steel screw to the same thread and creating a hollow inside here and just pushing through and then putting a cap on it. I think that might be the safest way of doing it. I'm happy for these to be the PLA, but I'm just a bit worried about that one. So that's the camera stand. So that will be coming onto Thingiverse soon, once I've got it all sorted out. The other thing that I printed was a new version of my Maker's token. I'm calling it a Maker's token. It's not a Maker's coin. I've been experimenting with different versions and trying different ones out, but I've settled on a final version. So this will be my Maker's token. So I'm thinking I might give one of these away each month to subscribers on my channel. So if you like that idea, let me know in the comment section below. And if enough people want to do that, well, that's what I'll do. I'll give one away and just send it to the winner each month. And another model I printed this week was the 3D Benchy. The 3D Benchy came up very well, and I made a video about this, which I'll put a link to in the description below. But the cool thing about this 3D Benchy was that the creator of the 3D Benchy, whose name is Daniel Moray, he actually, I hope I'm pronouncing the surname correctly, Moray, he actually contacted me and was rapt that I made a video about it and shared it on his Twitter feed. So that was absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it was a cool highlight of my week this week. Well, that's it for the models I've created this week. We're coming to the end of the episode, our second ever WhatsApp episode. But before we go, I thought we might have a look at or show you the analytics, the Google Analytics on the YouTube channel to see which countries are watching my videos. And I had a look the other day, and it's quite fascinating to see how many countries actually watch the videos. If you see number 1 is Australia, go Aussies. Coming up second is US, and then UK, Germany, Canada, India, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Spain, Italy, Brazil, Poland, Belgium, Switzerland, Finland, Austria, South Africa, Russia, Denmark, Czechia, Romania, Norway, Ireland, New Zealand, and it goes on over the page. So thank you. When I say hello world, I mean hello world. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. I really, really do appreciate it. The subscribers I have been, well, you guys are absolutely fantastic. You're so supportive, and it makes a pleasure to go into the comments and read what people are saying and getting the feedback on the videos I'm making. So hopefully, I know when we get more subscribers, the channel's going to get bigger, and I'm just hoping that we can keep the comments section to be a friendly place and a place I'm happy and excited to go and have a look at. So thank you again. You've all been fantastic and so supportive, and you're the reason why I'm keeping on doing this. It's just been brilliant. So thank you. So I think, well, with that said, I will say goodbye. Have a great day, and I'll see you later.